For weeks, we've been telling you about our investigation of a General Motors recall. At least 13 people have died in accidents linked to an ignition switch defect. Our reporting showed that GM was aware of this problem years before the recall. Today, we learned that Congress is opening an investigation too. Last month, GM began the recall of 1.6 million cars, including Chevrolet Cobalts from 2005 through 2007, and Pontiac G5s, Saturn Ions, and Pontiac Solstices, among others. Tonight, Jeff Glor has found another death may be linked to the case.
When this Chevy Cobalt crashed in Georgia 4 years ago this week, the engine was not running. The ignition switch was in the accessory position. A 29-year-old nurse named Brooke Melton, who was wearing her seatbelt, died. Her parents, Beth and Ken.
When we went to the emergency room, I leaned over and kissed her forehead, her cold forehead, and I whispered in her ear, I said, "I will vindicate this, and I will try to save as many lives as I can."
5 years before Brooke Melton died, GM issued a service bulletin to their dealers about faulty ignition switches. When Brooke Melton took her car to a GM dealership in 2010, the service report, which we obtained, said customer states engine shuts off while driving. Please check. Technicians cleaned the fuel injection. Melton got the car back on March 9th. She was killed March 10th. General Motors settled with the family late last year. Lance Cooper represents the Meltons. If this lawsuit had not happened, would this recall have happened?
No, I don't believe so.
GM now says that ignition switches can turn to the off or accessory position when they're bumped, or if a driver has a heavy keyring. When that happens, a car has no power steering, no power brakes, and the seatbelts and airbags don't work. Cooper discovered that GM changed the switch design in 2006, but never notified customers or dealers. He was about to depose Jim Federico, the man who ran GM's investigation into the issue in 2012 and 2013. He's now the company's executive director of engineering. Did you ever receive all the information you wanted from GM?
No. It was clear to us they had not produced a number of documents in violation of the court order.
Do you think they ever would have given you all those documents?
No. I think that ultimately that's why the case resolved, is they did not want us to have all those documents.
We asked to speak with Federico or anyone involved in the investigation at GM. The company declined. Right now, Brooke Melton's case is not among the cases GM says are linked to the defect. GM has acknowledged front impact crashes when airbags haven't deployed. But after her car lost power, Melton was hit on the side. If GM were to acknowledge that Brooke's death is linked to this ignition issue, how much more complicated does that make this case for GM?
Much more complicated, because it's no longer a non-deploy investigation. It's an overall what happens when these ignition switches cause the key to turn off investigation.
GM has hired an outside law firm to help its internal investigation. That's being done by the former U.S. attorney who examined the collapse of Lehman Brothers. GM says it won't have the parts to begin making these repairs, Scott, until April.
And GM will be sending notices out to the owners. Jeff, thanks very much.